The financial system in Europe is at a turning point. Central bankers are getting ready for what may be the largest monetary change in contemporary history behind closed doors. Once a sign of strength and solidarity, the euro is in decline. The rate of inflation is soaring. Economies are being choked by debt. Currently, There have been rumors of a drastic scheme to stabilize the eurozone by using XRP, a contentious but potent digital asset, to support its currency. The parts are all there, even though this seems like science fiction. The feasibility of a central bank digital currency, or CBDC, has been the subject of years of covert European central bank experiments. However, insiders assert that a more profound process is in progress. Recent unconfirmed sources suggest that the ECB may be contemplating an unprecedented approach, issuing a version of the euro backed by XRP that would completely rethink the monetary foundation and go beyond a test or pilot. Why XRP? We must first comprehend the scope of the European financial crisis in order to respond to that. Despite its economic power, the eurozone is in serious jeopardy. Unsustainable debt levels burden economies in the south, such as Greece, Italy, and Spain. The economic powerhouse of the region, Germany, is beginning to falter. Bond yields are rising, unemployment is increasing, consumer confidence is declining, and the EU's cohesiveness is beginning to erode. The conventional monetary tools aren't functioning. Interest rates are close to their lowest points ever. The benefits of quantitative easing have been steadily declining. Additionally, inflation, once thought to be temporary, has become entrenched. The central banks are stuck. It is impossible for them to tighten without starting a recession. They cannot reduce without causing inflation to rise much more. And in that situation, they are compelled to think about possibilities that they would not have thought about 10 years ago. Returns us to XRP. XRP was designed from the ground up to facilitate quick and easy payments, in contrast to Bitcoin, which is, a little slow and energy intensive. In a matter of seconds it settles. Transaction fees are negligible, less than 1 cent. Numerous financial organizations worldwide are now using the scalable and secure XRP ledger. It is more than a token. Actually, it's a layer of infrastructure. For a little period, let's imagine a future in which XRP serves as the foundation for all euro transactions, whether they are made between banks, companies, or individuals. According to this notion, XRP is cleverly wrapped in a digital euro. XRP is kept in reserve by the ECB or possibly another reliable custodian. There is a fixed quantity of XRP for each digital euro that is issued. Redemption is assured. Cryptographic evidence, not a government order, restores the trust. Things start to go crazy at this point. The demand for XRP would soar if the ECB truly chose to use the cryptocurrency to support even a small portion of its money supply. So let's figure this out. The Eurozone's M1 money supply, which includes cash and checking accounts and is the most liquid type of money, is valued at approximately $16 trillion. There are roughly 40 billion XRP tokens in circulation. The backing of $1.6 trillion would be implied if XRP were to support even 10% of M1. Therefore, the estimated price of $40,000 per coin is obtained by dividing $1.6 trillion by 40 billion XRP, with 20% support. That comes to 80,000. Even after taking into consideration partial reserves, speculative adjustments, and those transitory periods, a price objective of $50,000 per XRP begins to seem not just feasible but also realistic. Additionally, keep in mind that XRP is not necessary to replace the euro. All it needs is for it to support it, silently and imperceptibly in the center of a new digital system. Let's now discuss the alleged leak. Several sources assert that the ECB has investigated this concept internally, despite the fact that no formal documentation have been made public. XRP would serve as a settlement layer in models supposedly vetted by members of its Innovation and Digital Currency Working Group. According to reports, the phrase bridging euro liquidity through decentralized rails appeared in one paper. Another suggested that the monetary discipline that fiat had lost was provided by XRP's pre-mined fixed quantity. Speaking anonymously, a former contractor asserted that test transactions were already taking place in permissioned, regulated sandboxes that were intended to replicate real-world scenarios rather than on public ledgers. Although it's difficult to confirm, these allegations are becoming more widespread and align with Ripple's recent attempts to present XRP as an asset that is friendly to central banks. Although the ECB isn't formally on that list, observers have noticed numerous private talks between Ripple executives and EU financial regulators. Ripple has struck agreements with several nations to investigate CBDC frameworks. This signifies a new stage in the evolution of money, if it is true. Government bonds and ambiguous pledges will no longer support currency. Rather, it will be supported by blockchain assets that can be programmed and verified. Because of institutional custody and demand, XRP becomes the digital gold that is not mined, but rather distributed and stabilized rather than volatile. The euro is coined into existence rather than printed. Every unit is responsible and every transaction is final. Central banks would never give up control to a public blockchain, according to skeptics who claim this is a fiction. However, what if they are not required to? Permissioned interfaces can be used to access the XRP ledger, manage transaction visibility, and centralize custody while maintaining the advantages of decentralized settlement. The only way ahead might be this hybrid arrangement, which involves private issuance on public tracks. So let's take a step back. Why now? Why would the European Central Bank even entertain such a drastic change? Since there is not much time left, fiat money's underlying trust is vanishing. Gold is not scalable. Bitcoin moves too slowly. The same fiat that stablecoins want to replace is too reliant on them. XRP provides a medium ground with its special combination of stability, speed, and regulatory outreach. It's not anti-bank, it works with banks. It is a refit rather than an insurrection. What would happen to the typical XRP holding if this were to happen? Overnight, they acquire the most sought-after reserve asset in Europe. Indeed, speculation influences the price, but in reality, the utility is what keeps it stable. All of a sudden, businesses, banks, and governments start purchasing and holding XRP for their everyday activities. Prices just skyrocket, liquidity evaporates, and wealth shifts in previously unheard of ways. All of a sudden, the $10,000 XRP joke is no longer a meme. Actually, it's a place to start. There are risks, of course. There is no doubt that the euro could become unstable if the European Central Bank were to make this announcement too soon. Furthermore, the stability that XRP is supposed to offer may be seriously jeopardized if its price became excessively erratic. Here, governance becomes crucial. Who is in charge of the reserves? What controls are in place for issuance? What systems are in place for rollback, emergency intervention, or redemption? These are not easy questions, and to be honest, they need answers. Every revolution, however, begins with a question. What if? What if the European Central Bank is purposefully and covertly embracing XRP rather than disregarding it? What if the current crisis is a catalyst for the euro's change rather than its demise? And what if the XRP you currently have in your wallet serves as collateral for the currency of the future? The first movers will hold the most sway as the world rushes to adopt digital currency. The EU is aware that it must take action or risk falling behind, as China is already implementing the digital yuan and the US is investigating a digital dollar. XRP provides speed and settlement in a digital weapons race. Thus we go back to the beginning, a central bank in dire straits, a digital asset in the making, and a collapsing euro. The architecture is ready, the incentives line up, and the math works. The decision is the only thing left to make. Additionally, it's possible that the choice has already been taken. This might be your chance if you've been suspicious of the financial system, if you've studied XRP as a protocol rather than a coin, if you've persevered through the turbulence and looked past the noise, or it might just be another illusion in the constantly shifting world of international finance. We are on the brink of something significant, regardless of the reality. The concepts being discussed now will influence the future phase of money, regardless of whether XRP reaches $5,500 or even $50,000. The day fiat died and XRP was named the new euro will be remembered by history if the ECB truly stakes its future on a blockchain. I appreciate you watching. For more in-depth analyses like this one, make sure to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments section. Is this merely another crazy crypto plot, or might XRP actually support the euro? Keep an eye on the money, remain informed, and maintain your curiosity regardless of your beliefs. Please keep in mind that I am not a certified financial advisor. These videos only include content that is meant to be entertaining.